I don't remember exactly what made me want to get into photography, but the summer before moving to college, I ended up buying my first camera. A film one, that is. I think what happened was I was searching through the vintage section of eBay and saw you can get an old 50s or 60s film camera for under 30 bucks. Being into both vintage and artsy things, I decided I wanted to try one out. I did my research and flipped through dozens of eBay listings to eventually decide on ordering an Argus C3. They're cheap, reliable, use standard 35mm film, and have fully manual controls, which I thought would make it a bit more fun to learn and shoot with. This model was actually made from 1939 all the way to 1966 with only minor changes throughout, so finding them today is about as easy as it gets. Mine's actually from 1949 based on the serial number chart online. While I waited for it to ship, I did all the research I could to learn about film, how to use a manual camera, exposure, and other photography tips. By the time the camera arrived, I felt I had a decent understanding of how to shoot whatever situation I'd be in. My first impressions of the camera were really great. The Argus C3 is nicknamed the Brick, and upon seeing and holding this thing, you definitely understand why. It's so heavy and thick, being made entirely out of metal. It all feels authentic and real. Even the leather case it came with is well made. Like, this thing's so weighted it could survive any abuse you put it through. The only damage would probably be on anything else it bumps against. After marveling at the build quality, I loaded the camera with some film, went outside, and took some photos. Once I exhausted my test roll, I took the film to my local camera store and got the roll developed. Luckily, the store, Kenmore Camera, has their own film developing machine and is able to develop, print, and get the photos ready the same day. Not a common thing in 2018. It was admittedly really exciting having to wait and finally get to see the photos in their printed form. A lot of them were just test shots of my car, and I had my brother take this one of me as well. After seeing the photos and confirming the camera actually worked, I got so excited I ended up buying a second Argus C3, this one being a 1961 Matchmatic variant. I'll admit, looking back, it was pretty silly, but the one positive was I could keep different types of film in each body for different styles of shooting. One thing to note about the tan version is it's actually designed to work with a light meter accessory, so all the settings are numbered with exposure values instead of normal f-stop and shutter speed. A bit annoying, but each number is just a stop, so it's not the worst thing to get used to. But even besides that, working an Argus C3 is not for the casual shooter. Everything about it is slow and hard to use. The rangefinder to check focus is about useless, so you end up having to judge the distance from your subject and slowly turn this gear to match. The shutter speed and aperture are just as stubborn as well. I would always use the Sunny 16 rule and count stops between the shutter speed and aperture to stay correctly exposed. All these heavy controls dig into your fingers and really rough up your skin too. But when you're finally set up, you cock the shutter, fire, then wind the film to the next frame. Don't miss a moment though, cause it'll take at least half a minute to get the camera ready again. But it all does feel great still. The difficulty and build of the camera make it feel like you're doing something professional, and with all the factors fighting against you, it feels that much better when you get a photo you're proud of. And with a bit of practice, 2 cameras, some inspiration, and many more rolls of film, I spent the rest of my summer shooting. I have to say, I never thought too much about getting into cameras before seeing this one online, and now I frequently go out to photograph adventures, get invited by people to shoot for them, and have even gotten into video recently. I've acquired quite the collection of cameras, ones with auto exposure meters, ones that can shoot multiple frames a second, and ones that even have digital sensors. But I have to admit, all those features are nice and make capturing the moment significantly easier, but I frequently think back to the Argus C3s. Something about being so limited is so much more interesting. There's something about having to put up with thinking about every aspect of the photo before you can even set the camera up, and waiting days before you even get to see the result. It just makes it so much more rewarding and as if you're using a tool to create something significant. Like, it really makes you feel like a photographer rather than just someone snapping an image. They are a pain in the ass to shoot with, but I can't deny they are the most fun I've had with photography.